And with me now, the Conservative Business Minister, Matthew Hancock, and Labour's Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Chris Leslie. Welcome to you both, gentlemen. Matt Hancock, when did you first hear about the VAT decision? When was that decided?
I heard about it earlier this week, and there was a decision that we were going to rule it out.
When? On Monday?
I heard about it earlier in the week, and then...
On Monday? Or Tuesday?
On one or the other. It all blends into one sometimes.
So you heard before the Chancellor, because he was asked it 5 times yesterday and he didn't have a straight answer to it yesterday.
Well, the Chancellor was in front of the Treasury Select Committee. There was obviously a decision not to announce a new policy in that forum, but instead to announce it at Prime Minister's
questions. So he knew it
questions.
when he was being asked by the Treasury Select Committee yesterday?
Well, the way he answered the question is he said we don't need to, and that's absolutely
well, he fudged
true.
it, didn't he? I mean, he fudged answering the question. He could have said, we're not going to
raise it. He used the same
it.
formula that politicians sometimes use when they are saying that that they don't know whether they are or not going to. But he didn't absolutely categorically rule it out. No, that happened at Prime Minister's questions today.
And you knew that David Cameron was going to say it at PMQs today, did you?
I did, as a matter of fact, but I'm not, I don't know how many people did.
So waiting for the question to be asked to allow the Prime Minister to rule it out and at the dispatch box?
Well, as it happened, Ed Miliband asked a question that he didn't know the answer to, and I thought it was Prime Minister's questions at its best, although it's very rowdy, and some people like it and some people don't. But one of the things about Prime Minister's questions is that it's very difficult to hide. And you could see that in the debate, because Ed Miliband asked the question very directly. The Prime Minister answered it incredibly clearly. And then, when asking Ed Miliband, well, will you rule out raising national insurance, everybody could see that Ed Miliband had no answer to that
We'll
question.
come to Chris in a second. I just want to get that absolutely clear then. So you knew on, let's say, Monday, I'm assuming it was Monday, the Chancellor didn't want to tell the Select Committee, and then the Prime Minister announced it in PMQs. It was that simple, was it? You were sort of waiting for that question to come, and there it was. You've been sitting on this for a couple of days. I mean, no, it's a big decision, right? It's a big decision. And we've been waiting for policy detail for God knows how many months.
Yeah.
And suddenly, in 2 days, out it comes, as if this has sort of been a plan all along, and you said you've only known about it since Monday.
Well, me personally, I mean, I'm in the business department.
It's £100 billion, right? That's sort of just flown out there.
I mean, I will take at one point with Laura's package. She said it's very expensive. It's not expensive. It's not expensive to taxpayers to commit not to raise their taxes.
Sure, but the point she made was that if you raised it by just 1%, you'd make £5 billion.
What you're doing is that we would raise it from taxpayers. You don't make this money in government. It's taxpayers'
You have that money to spend, which you've now ruled out. So you've booked yourself in by a lot of money, by £100 billion.
But yeah, but it hasn't changed our plans. So we have a very clear plan of how to find the remaining 30 billion that we need. And actually, what we can now do is ask Chris Leslie, because last time we were on a programme like this, Chris Leslie said 2 very interesting things. He said, firstly, that we're going to close the deficit by raising shotgun licences, which is a bit of a joke. And secondly, he then said, but we're going to set out more detail in due course.
OK, I want to talk to Chris Leslie about national insurance. So when did you know? It's exactly the same question, because we're trying to get a sense of how quickly this policy on the hoof is made. Right. When did you know about the pledge on national insurance?
A year ago, we were being pressed to increase national insurance by even some in the Labour circles, maybe to fund the National Health Service. And it was at that point we decided, that wasn't the right thing. Well, a year ago we were talking about it.
So you knew a year ago, but Ed Miliband didn't know at lunchtime.
Well, of course we did. But the point is, we ruled it out a year ago because instead we wanted to raise.
So what kind of a party doesn't let their leader know?
Miliband didn't even rule it out at lunchtime.
Matthew, I know you've got to try and interrupt because your earlier answers were so appalling, but just let me finish. What we decided to do was to fund the NHS by raising a mansion tax on those properties worth £2 million and above. That's a better way and a fairer way to raise money for the NHS. Our approach is that every single time we have a spending commitment that we want to announce, we'll say exactly where the money comes from. And then there was no need, in fact, to raise national insurance. In fact, yesterday, before Prime Minister's question time, Ed Balls was being interviewed, and unprompted offered up, we don't have any need
but
to
wait,
raise
you're confusing me now.
So
you're confusing me now because
something
the question
we were going
was
to come to in our manifesto, obviously. But yesterday we were focusing on VAT, and there's a reason for that. It's because the Conservatives have a track record historically of saying before an election, we're not going to do it. In the same way as
I'm
the Prime
still
Minister
confused
did today.
because the question was asked to Ed Miliband. It's the same question that I put to Matthew Hancock. The question was asked to Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband didn't have a straight answer
Of course he did.
at 12 o'clock, and then Ed Balls had one at 2 o'clock.
It's very clear. This was questions to the Prime Minister. The opposition hold the executive to account. And Ed Miliband was very clear in saying that even if the Prime Minister says we're not going to do it, it's not believable. John Major, back in 1992, when pressed in exactly the same way, used the phrase, there will be no VAT increase. And you know what happened straight after that election? Up it went.
Do you believe...
Geoffrey Howe
do you
was the
believe
same
the Tory
in
pledges? Do you believe what we've heard from Matthew Hancock?
Have a habit of saying that before the election, just as David Cameron did today, and breaking it. And so it comes to the question of the believability, the trustworthiness of Conservative Prime
so you don't believe his policies. Do you believe their policies?
I don't believe that Matt says that he knew on Monday, because Priti Patel, a Treasury Minister, said at lunchtime today, straight after Prime Minister's questions, it was the first she'd heard of it.
Well,
now, why didn't she know about it?
Well, I don't know, but...
Do you believe his policies? Do you believe what we've heard today? Because the question is, you're both doubting each other, and you're right in the heart of the Westminster Village.
Actually, I don't think that's quite fair. I think that if a political party pledges categorically that they will not do something, I will take that pledge. But what I won't buy is this sort of rewriting of history.
Well, you didn't raise VAT.
The Labour position is melting faster than a spring frost under pressure.
Okay.
Because yesterday, Ed Balls...
We haven't got very long. Let me just come down to
it.
Let me explain. I just want to get to the sticking point of this, which is how much do these policies and these pledges mean?
Right.
Can I just clarify, you're not going to raise national insurance, are you?
We're going to cut national insurance.
You're going to cut national insurance for the next Parliament?
Yeah, so apprentices, for instance, won't pay national insurance. So we're going to cut...
Right.
How do you fund your tax
and I just want to get this straight. If national insurance raises or if VAT rises, you would resign off the back of that. Would you say this is a pledge with a red line round it? We've made the electorate. I will resign because I put my money.
The situation won't arise because we've pledged not to do it.
But you would. You could say that easily.
Well, the situation isn't going to arise. But the key thing is this.
VAT is that.
Hold on. There is one
you've had a good go. You've had a good go at it. If you let me,
do you feel that these are resigning issues? I'm just trying to get to the bottom of credibility for the electorate, because we're going into an election which is so closely fought that you're boxing in £200 billion in 2 hours this afternoon.
And you're getting a lot of this yaboo, and the only way, I think, frankly, to start to raise and elevate the debate is to, for example, get the Office for Budget Responsibility to come in and audit all the party manifestos, so we can at least have some independent, objective analysis and stop this kind of yaboo arrangement. But the point about
answer
please,
to this
Matthew,
question. Hold
on.
Wait,
just let him finish, please. No, just let him finish.
It's really trying to just trying to talk down your opposition.
I'm trying to ask a very simple question of Labour. We have set out how we're going to find the 30 billion.
No, you haven't.
We have.
Well, where are your
12
welfare
billion
cuts?
in welfare.
Which welfare
13
cuts?
billion
Which
from
ones?
departments and 5 billion from tax.
Which
from
ones?
departments? What are departments?
The government.
Which ones?
For instance,
Which government
departments? Hold on.
Which
and on
ones?
welfare, for instance, we said we would freeze working age
12
welfare.
billion.
But Labour have not set out a single penny of it other than
and
the shotgun licences.
And I'll tell you there's
So
a
is that
difference.
coming?
No, I just want one last question. Are these pledges safe from coalition negotiations now? If you go into coalition, are these ring-fenced, what you've just said today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be part of a cabinet that is involved in raising VAT. I've said this before and I say it again. I'll tell you why, because it's regressive and it hurts the poorest most.
Thank you.